In the late 1980s, the BBC's Top Gear was a perfectly respectable, if somewhat bland, motoring program. It was informative, sensible, and hosted by presenters in comfortable sweaters who discussed fuel economy and boot space with the earnestness of librarians. It was a show for people who already liked cars. But in 1988, a tall, curly-haired, and unapologetically opinionated young journalist from the world of print was given a screen test. His name was Jeremy Clarkson, and motoring television was about to be changed forever. Clarkson's arrival on the original Top Gear was a quiet revolution. He wasn't a former racing driver or a technical expert in the traditional sense. He was a writer, a provocateur, who brought the witty, subjective, and often hyperbolic style of his magazine columns to the screen. He introduced metaphors, jokes, and a level of passionate bias the show had never seen. He didn't just review a car, he gave it a personality. A Ferrari wasn't a collection of performance figures, it was a screaming, theatrical diva. A boring sedan wasn't just practical, it was an automotive sedative. As his producer on the original show, John Bentley, noted, he immediately understood that cars are not just about transport, they're about emotion. We knew right away he was a star. For over a decade, Clarkson became the face of Top Gear, his influence growing with every episode. But by 1999, he felt the format was exhausted. He left the show, and without its central gravitational force, Top Gear began to wobble. After a string of replacement presenters failed to capture the public's imagination, the BBC cancelled it in 2001. For a moment, it seemed the brand was dead. But Clarkson, along with his lifelong friend and producer Andy Willman, saw not a death, but an opportunity. They envisioned a radical departure from what had come before. The dry, magazine-style motoring show would be thrown out the window in favor of an explosive, funny, and cinematic production built around personalities, challenges, and cars pushed to their limits. In 2002, Top Gear was reborn. This wasn't a reboot, it was a complete reinvention. Clarkson returned not just as a host, but as the show's ideological architect. The new format was built on a simple but revolutionary foundation. 3 middle-aged men arguing, competing, and getting into trouble in cars. Clarkson was the opinionated, bombastic leader. He was soon joined by the charming and perpetually in peril Richard Hammond, and, a series later, the meticulously slow and thoughtful James May. The chemistry was instant and electric. As Willman would later say, you can't manufacture that. You had 3 very different points of view on the world colliding. Jeremy, the arrogant one, Richard, the excitable one, and James, the pedantic one. It was a perfect storm of petrol, wit, and chaos. This new iteration of Top Gear introduced segments that would become legendary. There was the power lap board, benchmarked by their new anonymous racing driver, the Stig. There was the star in a reasonably priced car, which brought Hollywood glamour to a dreary airfield track. But the heart of the show became the epic films. The trio was sent on absurd challenges, crossing Vietnam on cheap motorbikes, building amphibious cars to cross the English Channel, or driving to the North Pole in a modified pickup truck. These weren't car reviews. They were adventure movies where the cars were often the antagonists. One of the most iconic moments was their attempt to destroy a Toyota Hilux. They drowned it in the sea, set it on fire.
Wrong.
The fact that the truck still started became a defining legend of the show.
I do not believe it!
A testament to its new, absurdly entertaining philosophy. Under Clarkson's stewardship, Top Gear grew from a UK hit to a global behemoth. By 2013, it was in the Guinness Book of World Records as the most-watched factual television program in the world, with an estimated audience of 350 million. Clarkson's signature phrases,
Power! Ambitious but rubbish!
and the show closing,
And on that bombshell.
became part of the international lexicon. However, with global fame came intense scrutiny. Clarkson's provocative, close-to-the-bone humour frequently landed him in hot water with the BBC and the press. Each controversy, From accusations of offending entire nations to diplomatic incidents, only seemed to fuel the show's rebellious mythos. To its fans, Clarkson wasn't just a presenter. He was an anti-establishment hero, fighting a war against political correctness. But the friction between Clarkson's combustible personality and the BBC's institutional caution was always going to reach a breaking point. In March 2015, after what the BBC termed a fracas with a producer over a hot meal, Clarkson was suspended and his contract was not renewed. The fallout was immediate and immense. Fans organised petitions and one even drove a tank to the BBC's London headquarters in protest. But the decision was final. In a move of incredible solidarity, Hammond and May refused to continue without him. The era that had defined motoring television for 13 years was over. Yet, this wasn't the end of the story. After their departure from the BBC, the trio, along with Andy Willman, signed a landmark deal with Amazon Prime to create the Grand Tour. The budget was bigger, the creative freedom was absolute, but the core idea remained the same. 3 friends, incredible cars, and epic adventures. Jeremy Clarkson's legacy is not just a list of shows he hosted. He dismantled the old, stuffy format of car journalism and rebuilt it as blockbuster entertainment. He proved that a show about cars could be a show about friendship, adventure, comedy, and human fallibility. He took a niche interest and made it a global passion. Clarkson is not just a presenter. He's the man who taught the world that the story of a car is never just about the car itself. It's about the journey you have in it. And on that bombshell, good night.